What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of your favorite Warcraft 3, your only Warcraft 3 podcast that is fast expand. My name is Kendric, and I'm being joined by my favorite pollen boy, Remo from Back2Warcraft, as we're both kind of plagued by the already super early allergy season, right?
It started, yeah. So 2-3 days ago, eyes began to itch. Now the sneezing and the wheezing hasn't started yet. Normally April is the best time for that for me, but yeah, spring always so enjoyable.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It feels like winter hasn't really taken place this year. I'm not sure about your place in Germany, but over here in the south, it was super mild the entire time. You know, there was no real snowstorms or nothing, which is great if you're driving around the state a lot like I do, but it's kind of shitty when that means that there's going to be early pollen season because obviously, trees like it. They already think it's spring.
Yeah, actually here in mine, it hasn't snowed a single time. Like, there's oftentimes in winter snow that rains down, but it doesn't stay on the ground.
Yeah.
We haven't even had that. We have had zero snow, bit of rain. And this, and to expand that just a little bit more, this is probably going to be my first winter ever without any snow.
Yeah.
I guess you guys had some snow down in Munich, but here, nothing.
That's crazy. I can't remember a single time where I was on the road or I was outside and I was like, damn, dude, that's real snow chaos. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I didn't even need to change my tires at the car on the car, I think. If I stuck with summer tires, nobody would have noticed.
Now, I'm definitely not a car guy, but I thought nowadays it's like the fashion to have all year-round tires. Is that not a thing?
I think, I don't have any ideas. I just use my car a lot, but I'm not really into cars myself either, because I live in a rather rural region, we're not living in the big city or anything. So I talked to my mechanic, I talked to him about it, and he was like, nah, they're all shitty, Then I talked to other people, and they're like, they're actually pretty good quality at the moment. So maybe someone in chat, maybe in the comments knows whether all year tires are basically the thing to do.
Well, maybe your mechanic, smart businessman that he is, realized he can sell you 2 sets of tires if you go winter and summer, instead of just having the 1 set for all year round.
And guess who's also in charge of switching them, changing them? I'm not doing it myself. He's getting that pocket money for just that.
You got to get by somehow, right?
That's right, man. But actually, back to some Warcraft 3, man. It's not like, there hasn't been much to talk about in terms of Warcraft 3 lately, man. In fact, quite the opposite is the case. Don't really have any fixed agenda that I want to talk to you about because I'm pretty sure Reforged is going to keep us busy for a long time. And then at the end of the show, towards the end, we're just going to answer some community questions, like always, some Q&A. Really enjoyed that. So yeah, before we dive right into the heavy stuff, the crazy stuff that is Reforged, for all of you out there that still may have never seen this handsome man, Remo, who's part of Back2Warcraft, of course, just introduce yourself real quick. Who are you, what do you do, and why do you love Warcraft 3 so much?
My name's Remo. I've been a Warcraft 3 caster for a very long time, but only since this month, going full-time.
Nice. Congratulations, by the way, once again.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I started doing radio casts in German over Winamp plugins back in 2008 when we were all just kids and had a dream. And certainly weren't getting paid anything by ESL, despite us being ESL radio. After a while, Warcraft 3 seemed to kind of die. I went away, but it came back. The renaissance of Warcraft 3 took foot in 2014 and the years moving forward. And especially Neo was the driving force there for Back2Warcraft, and I think also for a lot of the European scene, actually. And I've been enjoying the game just as much as before. I've been getting deeper into the game, and I love that game still with Reforged. I love that game. I think we still have a bright future ahead of us. And why do I love the game? Well, part of it is nostalgia, certainly. I grew up with the game. I grew up with Footman Frenzy first before I ever dared, as a noob, to enter the actual 1v1 BattleNet system, which, oh boy, did that take a long time until I finally get somewhat good. RTS are some pretty hard games, in case you guys didn't know. And I just love playing it. I love watching it. I love casting it. And a really nice bonus thing about it as well is that we have a small community, but I think we actually have a really good community, considering we're all on the internet and we're all on Reddit and Discord. I really like where we're at right now. If we, polish up the Reforged ship a little bit.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It's been a journey. I haven't been invested into the scene as much as you, and not really as long as you. But I've always been more of an observer, because I started the game when I was, I don't even know, man, 13, 14-year-olds at my friend's basement. We had the LAN parties there.
Yeah.
Play 2v2 all day, all night, and then Uther party, Final Fantasy RPG, all the custom game shenanigans. It was crazy, but so yeah, it's great to have you. We already had your significant other, we had your better half, as he would probably call himself, Neo, on the show. So now we're catching up and making it complete, full circle.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, by the way. Looking forward to this podcast. Finally, someone who knows what he's talking about when he talks about Warcraft. Well, unlike Neo,
Who did lose the latest challenge in terms of knowledge, power. You want to go into specifics for people who didn't catch it?
So there's this German gaming show called Rocket Beans TV. They have a Warcraft format called Creepjack, and there Neo actually goes every Thursday and does a show there. And there's this little trivia part of the show where really obscure questions get asked. And what was that ago now? 1.5 weeks ago or something?
Yeah.
We did a contest with him and me going up against each other through a gauntlet of ridiculous questions, which was a lot of fun, by the way. It was a very close fight, but I barely won out in the end.
Do you remember what was the killing blow question that executed him? Yeah.
Last question. We were head to head on points. Was, can Spellbreakers steal enemy Unholy Frenzy? And I said yes, and he said no.
Enemy Unholy Frenzy, so why shouldn't they be able to steal it? It's just a normal buff, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought so too. I guess Neo thought it's also a debuff, though, because of the damage you take.
Ah, okay, I see.
So that's why I guess he felt that way.
Nice.
But I, as a man or back then a boy who played a lot of Unholy Frenzy, played a lot of X-Hero Siege, I still remember those Frostworms flying in with the Unholy Frenzy and Protection Scroll and Bloodlust, and I knew that spell is not even so terrible.
Pretty sure Neo will never forget about it again in his life.
The funny thing was, I thought first he was joking when he said he was feeling kind of down after it, but I think it actually was the case.
Is there going to be a rematch in the future sometime soon?
I was asked, or we brought it up on the show, and there seems to be intentions for it, and I'm definitely up for a rematch. Nice. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah, so, last weekend and pretty much the weekends before that as well were pretty eventful for you guys, for Neo and you, because you were casting your hearts out, man. You've been going on a real casting spree, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at times even. And you recently started your own project, the Rising Star Cups that you do with AMD. Can you talk to us about, how that came into place? And then later on, you also added Calder to the roster. So now you're doing a bi-weekly shuffle. So how did that really come into fruition?
What's quite interesting. Now, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to disclose this, but I don't think any harm will be coming from that. So
okay.
Let's get into it. AMD is a big part of the Rising Star thing. Ever since Jera Cup basically stopped existing, it felt like there was a void in Europe. We had pretty regular competition over on NetEase in China, of course, with the big tournaments, but also with like Shook Cups and Sam Cups and lots of little cups. And we felt that a weekly tournament is especially something to look forward to for the amateur scene. Yeah. Ladder is fine and all, but you want to have some tournaments as well to compete against the best out there, to have some real actual games. And that was a really dry time for Europe for quite a while. back then, Jera Cup, hosted on Good Game RU, was sponsored by the man Jera, hence the name.
Mm-hmm.
And no sponsor really wanted to step forward, wanted to invest into Warcraft anymore, which was kind of scary at the time. But then AMD, they didn't exactly come forward themselves, as far as I know. It was actually the Warcraft legend, Jaws, who kind of was the in-between there.
Fellow German.
Yes, who's working for Sport 1, a German TV format, the esports section there. And he has lots of contacts and got in contact with AMD, was aware that they were willing to, or were looking for sponsorships for endorsements and stuff like that, and kind of struck that bargain to a certain extent, or at least he was the liaison, so to speak. And we pitched the idea of having Rising Star Cup, and as you may remember, first it was only announced until the end of the year. We had I think it was 4 editions or something, and then with the new year, with Reforged, we had the extended season started, and hopefully many more to come.
Very nice. And I think I speak for a large majority of the community when I say that I'm enjoying these cups a lot. And it has its own dynamic, really. It has this storyline going on right now. Who can beat Happy? Who can dethrone him? And it got so close.
It got so close, dude.
It got so close. Dude, I was actually at the edge of
my
seat.
If Foggy had bought a second pair of boots, I think he would have won.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone's going to say that, it's me, of course. I'm the biggest fan of boots of speed in the world. But yeah, finally, at least someone got close. It started to get scary because he was, he lost the map here and there, but never really felt like he was actually in trouble in the series. And
it almost felt like he got scared at some point, he was mentally impaired by this Happy curse.
It was on the 5th map where I felt like, Happy, you're playing very passively. This looks pretty timid, which normally is something he never does, which is good to see. I mean, it is an insane storyline. How Happy, has been dominating Europe over the last, I think it's at least 2 years now, where he's by far the best, and it's not even close. And it is an insane achievement. We actually get I don't know if you know this, Neo and we get quite a bit of hate on YouTube. Not exactly hate, but at least
No, I can totally see it, because you always invite Happy and he always wins.
Could you stop propping him up as if he's a god amongst men? You're complimenting him way too much. And I don't know. I don't feel that way. I think if a player achieves something like he has, which is basically unrivaled dominance over a whole region over so long, and for his first big tournament entries, he gets back-to-back World Championship. When Moon first started playing professional circuit again, he was pretty bad. It took him at least 1.5 years to become God Moon again.
Yeah.
So, I think Happy is an insane player. What was my point? But it is starting to get, I guess, especially looking in from the outside perspective, if you're not so hardcore into the little intricacies and the little micro moves and builds and perfect timings and absolutely perfect army control, of course. If you don't appreciate all of that so super hard as many of us hardcore fans do, then maybe it can look a little dull from the outside. There's this one guy winning every tournament, 3-0 in every final. And I mean, ideally, for suspense's sake, I guess I would prefer to see a little more competition. But in my opinion, if someone deserves it, I still think that is still amazing to see as a viewer.
And you mentioned the fact that comebacks usually require a little bit of time for the players that made the comeback to get back on top. You have players like Remind, recently coming back, and on Remind's level, for example, he's already doing really well, in my opinion, as to how fast he made it back to the scene, to the top of the scene. But it's just still a super steep mountain to climb, and Happy definitely is a one-in-a-kind player in that regard. And I think Foggy, man, after that last grand final in the Rising Cup, I think he smelt the blood in the water, dude. The chat was spamming those Froges like crazy. Did you see it?
That was sick, dude. Yeah. I saw the chat racing by, which is not something that happens too often on our channels. Normally, it's pretty well behaved, but people were really hyped, which is also reflected in the numbers. I'm not necessarily so much a numbers guy. I think it is not the best indication of quality necessarily, but it is somewhat of an indicator, and we saw it there on Sunday. It was 6,200 viewers
Nice.
for a weekly cup, which is
I
definitely...
mean, numbers aren't everything, but they're definitely very important to the sponsors.
Yes,
you know, if you can send those numbers over to AMD and other people who are endorsing the project, dude, that's going to be great news, not just for you guys, but for Warcraft 3 as a game, you know, to really
every
be able to
marketing person out there ever
yeah.
will always talk about numbers. Don't care if you say, oh, it's an up-and-coming scene, we have a strong independent community, blah, blah. For the money men, it's all about the numbers. So yeah, it's nice to have that success, which hopefully will continue throughout the year. We had certainly big hopes. I almost wanted to say wild hopes for what Reforged launch would bring. We were thinking, oh, maybe, you know, Soda Poppin's gonna stream, Crip's gonna stream, the game's gonna be awesome, everyone's gonna stream, so many new people coming in, everyone's gonna love the product, they're gonna start playing the campaign, then they find the custom games, they play Legion TD, they play Footman Frenzy, and then they start diving into 1v1. Maybe Blizzard has implemented some tutorials to make that easier for players right now, immediately implement into the client. Maybe there's stream suggestions in the client for people to find a place to get better, to have some kind of entry point. Well, all those hoped for features certainly were not delivered, and unfortunately, a lot less was not delivered. So, as everyone watching here will know, the launch was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
Well, more than just a bit. It was a complete disaster. But, you know, it's less than we were hoping for. I was, of course, certainly disappointed. Yeah. I was surprised by the utter outrage, shitstorming, and just people losing their minds the way that it happened.
To me, it seemed like Warcraft Reforged, you know, because they were like there was this mob mentality, there was this outrage that I personally had never seen before, and I've seen, you know, Blizzard mistreating and manhandling Heroes of a Storm. People were outraged about that. I've seen other companies do wonky stuff, but this is a new to me, a new time low.
Yeah, I still don't understand why it is so extreme.
Today, someone on my stream, dude, I played campaign, and someone on my stream came over, and that person told me that apparently there were people so outraged and so bent on really, you know, giving retribution to Blizzard that they upvoted, they made good critics on Metacritic for other shitty games so that Reforged would drop even lower. Can you believe that? So they looked for other 0-point-something games, and they dropped a good review for that one just so that Reforged would get an even worse review.
Yeah, that's extreme. It's also not helpful. Like,
it's crazy, man. But to really, like, let's try to the guys out there that are really interested in your point of view and my point of view, perhaps. The release, when you played the beta, and I know you did, right? You played quite a bit of the beta. I always thought it was not going to be as bad as the beta was. I always thought the beta is this, but the internal version that they have prepared for the launch is certainly like 3-4 steps further. Turns out that was not entirely the case.
I mean, it did get better over the course of the beta. So when beta first came out, I think the game ran on my PC, which is not a high-end PC, but it was like 1.5 years ago, it was really good. So it's a pretty good PC. And on my system, it had 25 FPS. And I was like,
terrible.
God damn it. Like, the most important thing, especially in a competitive game, is how it feels to play.
Yeah.
And it felt awful. We are still far away from 200 FPS or 145, which is ideally what you want, but it's better. The beta. I had the wrong expectations about the beta, because when I thought about the beta coming, which we were waiting on for a long time, and we were ready for the floodgates, I always thought back to the StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty beta. I don't know how involved you were with that, but that was fucking crazy. That was a gold rush beta. People were so out of their minds hyped for that game. Everyone wanted to see it. Everyone wanted to play it. There were countless threads of beta key begging everywhere. So I was aware this wasn't going to be the same because Warcraft 3, already old game, is not something new. It's not the new Blizzard IP, the whole shebang kind of stuff. But I thought there was going to be some of that engagement
And back then,
some
Blizzard's
of that
reputation
hype.
certainly was a different one than it is today.
Yeah, but that was not the case. Like everyone was like, "Oh, here's the beta. Let's try this out," and then everything was kind of gray. We have 30 FPS. There's no matchmaking. There's no ranked system to be seen. The UI is really weird, not to even say ugly, and unnecessarily complicated. So yeah, the hype didn't really travel far.
Yeah. Did you, even in the darkest times of the beta, did you ever expect it to go this poorly, the release, or did you always have a little bit of hope that they're not going to mess it up that much?
I didn't, honestly, I didn't think it was like the way it came out. I wasn't surprised it was so bad. Like I knew there was going to be no matchmaking.
Yeah, that one was well announced ahead of time.
But many people either didn't hear or didn't realize. And it ran very poorly. But I think most people, like, isn't the average player a campaign player? Like that's all the people getting enraged. And the campaign is working as far as I know. I haven't played it yet. And dude, I mean, there was some scummy things going on. Like there was false advertisement still on the site. With like cutscenes, reworked,
the
blah blah, which didn't go through, and they kind of oversold the custom games thing with millions of games playable when many of them are pretty damn buggy. And then another, Blizzard special, like law kind of thing is with the intellectual property of custom games, and I feel like that was kind of the nail in the coffin for the Reforged release. Is like people holding on to that or being emboldened in their bad view of Blizzard already with the Hong Kong thing in the past, and with people already pissed off at Blizzard. It looks like everyone is looking for the next thing that can slightly annoy them.
Yeah.
And
it felt like a lot of people were saying, at least they're not going to take custom games from us, or at least they're going to stick to the old Blizzard ways in that regard, which is a creative freedom for all the map makers out there. And it seems like even that was taken into that more totalitarian approach that Blizzard has kind of shown lately, that more Chinese approach that Blizzard likes to do these days. So yeah, that sparked a lot of outrage. But back to what you were saying with the campaign and the single player players. I didn't understand that either. I thought the campaign was actually the one nugget in the game that I thought was delivered quite handsomely. True, they did cut the cinematic cutscenes, and true, they did not make the campaign as epic as they wanted to, with altered levels and additional side kicks in the mission and all that stuff. But I played the campaign. I played all the ROC campaigns by now, played them all through on hard, and it felt good, True, there were a couple of moments where my immersion was broken hardcore, especially when, enemy Nagas or the Naga Sea Witch, they would toss you in the Cyclone up, and I was like, whoa, it's back. The multiplayer's back.
But some of the threads I saw on Reddit were so ridiculous. Like the one guy made a whole thing with like hundreds of upvotes about how could Blizzard dare to ruin their legacy by putting ears on the Naga Sea Witch model. And I'm like, what? Is this a sarcastic post? I don't know anymore. I think he was serious. It's like people looking for every little thing to
every detail, every facet of the game of Reforged was overanalyzed. It started with the female Deathland, the female Demon Hunter. I feel that's where it all started, and people were already like super agitated about that. And I was like, oh, come on, guys, that can't be your true purpose. Your one true purpose in life is to make or to write an essay about why it's wrong that Blizzard introduced these new models. And then it goes on, like you said, with the ears. I don't know, man.
I mean, it is correct to criticize Blizzard because, to be completely fair and honest, For a 2020 release by a AAA studio, one of the richest studios in the world, a release like this is pathetic.
After all the stuff that's done before in other franchises, of course, as well. It's not like this is a once-in-a-lifetime slip-up. This is just another hiccup in one of their most prestigious projects of all time.
Yeah, it's true. It was a pathetic release.
Yeah.
But I honestly, I didn't understand why people... I'm still trying to understand exactly why people got so upset. I've been thinking about it a little bit, and I think similar to both of us, a lot of people were really personally, emotionally disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is we grew up with this game. We have super fond memories of this game.
Yeah.
I think most people watching here, like you, I pretty much started playing at the same time at 13 years old. I associate this game with LANs, with friends, with discovering the internet, actually.
Absolutely, man.
And for me, getting introduced into esports, which now turned into my career. So there's all these associations with it. And if then you basically hype yourself up, or your childhood dreams you expect to be reawoken in you again with this new release, and then it's not what you want, and then you think it's bad, and then you think the company behind it maybe is evil, maybe that's where all this aggression and and disappointment and rage is coming from. I'm on the other side of the spectrum. I'm not at all angry, not even a little bit. I'm like the parent, I'm disappointed. I am disappointed, but I'm not at all angry. But I think we also, like me especially, and also you, we kind of have to stick with the game. I certainly have to stick with the game, and so I'm not gonna be throwing up my hat and gonna be like, this is outrageous, this is unacceptable, I'm out. Like, I'm gonna be here, and I'm gonna try to hopefully provide some kind of valuable feedback, and I'm gonna hope that Blizzard gets their shit together and throws in patches and does deliver on their promises, unlike, for example, they did with StarCraft Remastered, but we're probably gonna get into that more later. So I guess the short version for me of it was, yes, I was very disappointed, but not necessarily angry. But if they leave the game in a state like it is, which they won't, they will patch. But if they don't significantly improve the game, then I'm pretty sure I'm going to be furiously pissed.
Absolutely. And, they recently announced some changes were coming later this week. Some other changes were, in the pipeline for the near future. And I was just, when I read that patch, I don't want to even tackle the contents of the patch and how they phrased it. People are already doing rant videos about that patch alone. It seems to be like this whole circle jerk about, oh my God, look at this disgrace of a patch announcement now. Blizzard has fucked up again. I saw a YouTube video today with 180K views or something about the patch, about this patch announcement. It feels like completely out of control. But when I read the patch, regardless of how they phrased it, regardless of what they announced, I'm just glad that there was an announcement. I talked to Grubby lately. I think it was after last fight night. I talked to Grubby, and we both said it could very well happen that they're burying this game, this franchise, and they never talk about it again, and they pretend like it never happened.
I mean, it's possible, but I think that's probably the one good thing that this whole woke culture has done is you can't ignore your fuck-ups. Like, not really. People are gonna witch hunt you on Twitter. And where, for the most part, I think witch hunting is done wrong and the general concept isn't very healthy. What it does is, at least sometimes, is hold people responsible.
And that's, as much as both of us are against this very, like you said, witch hunt or medieval mob culture, whatever you want to call it, the one good thing, and we have to give some of those people credit as well for being so loud and for being so energetic, because oftentimes as someone who's, dependent on Blizzard, who's kind of, rooted into their games, tries to make a living of it, we can't be as vocal. So sometimes it's actually good to have these people that just blow up like a volcano and wakes Blizzard up, like you said. So that's something we cannot forget. Although I'm personally not a big fan of it, and I think it's overblown and overdone, it's still good that some of these people exist.
Yeah, it's definitely important to give feedback and to let people know, especially a big company, if they're doing something wrong. It's hard to tell if that is in the end a good thing or a bad thing, because I have some experience that I'm going to share with you here about how it was harmful, but also some where I think it could be good. So I'm going to give you the harmful thing first.
Yeah.
The harm that was done, basically. All right, no, that's not correct. The harm that was amplified by the community. So with Reforged coming out, new sponsors were getting interested. I'm sure you heard about that as well from, internal sources and stuff. And new tournaments were in the works and things were getting planned beginning of the year. Normally, over December, January, esports stuff gets like planned and so on. And sponsors and events have already decided to scrap their plans and to pull out, at least for the beginning of this year, because of the negative reception, because of how big of a shitstorm it was.
Yeah.
And the question is, if the community had been more subtle and more constructive, and had less been losing their shit, then maybe those sponsors would be still involved. Maybe those sponsors would still be investing into Warcraft. But after seeing of how catastrophic it was, they decided it wasn't a good idea, it wasn't a good investment.
Because they didn't want their own brand name getting involved with this.
Associated with it, exactly. And of course, then they always say, we don't rule out doing further work together in the future, but you never know if that's true or if that's just corporate bullshit. So that is the harmful part of this whole thing that definitely has occurred. But the helpful thing could actually also be a true event that is happening and has happened. And that is, this is basically the number one meme now, is Metacritic lowest rating. Metacritic 0.5, 0.4, whatever we're at right now, which is quite a tragically...
It might be right
tragically
now.
sad part of gaming history.
It might be the difference right now between the original score, which I think was 9.4 or something. Yeah. So we might have now the difference that makes the full 100. We go full circle.
But what that does is that's something so obvious and so dumb and so stupidly boiled down. That shit gets passed up the chain really high. Bobby Kotick probably knows about that Metascore. And normally, if you do constructive criticism like, we need more FPS and please improve the colors, you think the executives are going to hear anything about that shit? No, they're not. So that's how you get their attention. Is I think the positive possibly of this whole debacle, that and the dropping stock shares.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a small drop in the shares, but it's really insignificant as far as I can tell over the last couple of months. But yeah, this is something that companies also have realized. Big shitstorms cost you money in the stock market. This was most obviously visible for Blizzard just about more than 1 year ago with Diablo Immortal, where the stock tanked really hard. So,
you know what?
Yeah, as much as we don't agree with the method of this aggressive, vocal, almost vitriolic behavior, it does have some effect. It is, loud and in your face, and everyone is gonna get told, even the higher ups in the chain.
You know what actually surprised me, Remo? I actually thought that at some point we were gonna see a higher up step down, retire. But even after all those mess ups and fuck ups, they all seem to be still in charge.
Someone's gonna get the axe.
Someone's gonna have to.
I'm pretty sure. Poor Pete. I like the guy so much. Oh boy, like this last half year probably has been hell for him, and now with the launch, he's in hell 2.0, and he's gonna have to grind out at least another half year to somewhat right the ship. And then, for all of his work, he's probably going to get fired.
The thing is,
I don't think he deserves it, but that's normally how it works with companies. You remember Diablo 3 and Jay Wilson?
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I think it's just a real tragedy. What happened to Reforged is basically just a tragedy. And you mentioned the whole 2018 Diablo phone fiasco. I think that basically goes hand in hand with what happened now. Like, imagine if 2018 BlizzCon hadn't been as shitty, and they didn't desperately need like this one good piece of good news, good press, which was Warcraft 3 Reforged, in my opinion. And if they weren't under so much stress to deliver something good to the masses, that they were like, hey, okay, so not only are we going to announce Warcraft 3 Reforged, but it comes out next year. So, to get at least some momentum back after that whole Diablo Immortal bullcrap, if that hadn't happened, and if maybe someone had remained a little bit cooler, more cool-headed, and they had said, yo, we're not going to give a release date. We need time for this, If that hadn't happened, who knows, the developers could have had 6, 12 more months, and who knows, the game would have been in a much better shape. And I feel very sorry for the classic developers, too, because their team was not a big one compared to World of Warcraft or Overwatch, whose teams are probably 3 times, 4 times the size. So oftentimes people make the mistake, I think, right now, and they blame the developers overly compared to the higher-up executives, which really said, hey, guys, release it next year. And maybe one of the developers said, hey, we can't do that, guys. Not with the team size, not with the resources you give us. No, release it next year.
I can tell you about a rumor I heard, and it's only a rumor. I have this not confirmed by any
disclaimer.
Blizzard insider or anything. But I heard a rumor which may just have been created out of hatred for what I'm gonna tell you now. So the rumor I heard over the course of last year was that at BlizzCon 2018, when Reforged was announced, the development team didn't actually want to announce the title yet because they felt they needed more time for development. But higher up executives made the call that they needed to increase the quarterly numbers for the end of 2018. And we're hoping to do that with the Reforged pre-orders. And that was the reason why it was announced 2018.
And that's why they had to do a 1-year limit on that too, because otherwise pre-order doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of overstepped there anyways, but apparently nothing happened. But again, I hope nobody's going to clip this out of context. This is not a fact. This is not something I know. This is a rumor that I heard, which could make sense, but it's the rumor people want to believe as well, you know? Like, when rumors are exactly what people want to hear, that's where it can be kind of suspicious, because what's everyone been saying? Activision is the devil. Blizzard isn't Blizzard that we used to love anymore. It's Activision Blizzard now. It's different. And the money men are the evil ones, and it's all their fault. You know? So it's playing exactly into that mentality, which is why I'm hesitant to believe that.
Yeah, I can definitely understand why. It's just a real tragedy once again. Have to repeat myself. I really think it could have been so much more. And now I think it's basically up to us, you know. Have you actually been personally, like you and Neo, have you guys been personally affected by some of the bad backlash, like people flaming you or people attacking you for still supporting Blizzard, still supporting the game?
Yes, absolutely. People saying we are shills and we're bought off, we're sellouts, and we're not credible.
Is that YouTube comments or?
Yeah, mostly YouTube. Also some in Twitch. You know, people venting their anger in some way, but that doesn't really, you know, I feel like you can view that pretty coolly. It's basically Reddit spilling over to our channel a little bit and attacking us. You know, dude, we're Twitch streamers. We get attacked all the time. Like, it's nothing new.
We have a skin of Iron Man.
Yeah. Over the years,
you get it. But like you said, it wouldn't really affect us, or you wouldn't really let that get to you.
No, it's not like we've gotten death threats or something. We're not like political on Twitter. Well, I was a couple of days ago, but that's a different story. Something I briefly touched on earlier. I think this is the real concern for me, because I'm sure Blizzard will throw in some patches they have to, And I'm sure the experience is going to get better, the Reforged experience. I hope it's going to get good, finally. And the silver lining here is the game is still good. The scene is obviously alive and possibly even growing. So we have a competitive scene. That's the very, very first most important thing. Yeah. Honestly, it is more important than anything else. What if every casual out there was like, oh, amazing, campaign is so much fun, and I can play my custom games, but we just play tanks all the time, and every game is a tower rush, and the community is stagnating, and nobody's playing in tournaments. It's kind of the other side of the medal, you know? It's like not necessarily what the masses are interested in, but it's what our bread and butter is. So we are also set for a time, we think at least, with the ESL Pro Tour. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, as it seems. So there's something to do and something to look forward to. But the thing that I'm concerned with is, how is Blizzard actually going to handle this game in the future? What's the support going to look like? How is the feedback from the community going to be listened to? How is the support going to look in any way? And the most obvious comparison you're going to draw here is to StarCraft Remastered. And that is not very hope-inspiring, because their post-launch, not much was done. And I must admit, I'm not too well read up on this. I'm not too well informed with the whole StarCraft Remastered scene and how Blizzard handled it. But I'm pretty sure they promised a lot of things and delivered on far from all of them. I think like 2v2 ranked MMR or something is still missing.
I think 2v2 is still missing after all this time. And that's just... I'm not sure if that's a big part or if it was a big part of Brute War back in the days. Like you said, been more into StarCraft 2 myself, but
that's also where we move into corporate territory again.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to dissect the latest blue post to figure out what they're going to do. If you want to do that, you can find that yourself on Reddit or somewhere. But I'm pretty sure they mean a lot of things that they say, like they're sorry about the way it turned out. I'm sure the development team would have loved to delay further, but they couldn't because their hands were tied. And I'm sure they want to work on this game more, and they want to make it the best experience possible, and they want to appease the fans at least somewhat. They want to be... I mean, they have created this, and they know it's a mess. And when you create something and it's shit and you leave it like that, it's a really bad feeling. So I'm sure there's also a personal stake in them, in this for them. But now corporate culture comes in. It may very well happen that 2 patches roll out, and then somebody up from executive level comes in and says, all right, we have noticed there is not enough revenue coming in. We have to cut resources. So now your development team of 10 is down to 2. Shit like that happens all the time. And this is why I was really hoping for the skin system to be implemented well and to be monetized. I'm sure I will get more hate for this comment, as I always do. People saying, oh, Remo likes skins and microtransactions. And the fact is, yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's a way that... Oh my God, did my computer just die?
No, I think you're still with me.
I blacked for a second. Okay.
Good.
This is how you can continuously milk resources and generate money. And this is the best way to get the higher ups off your back. You show them, there, you see, we make money. We make money every month. There you see it. This is how much money we can invest further. If there's no way to spend any more money, how are they going to convince the suits and the sharks to invest more into the game?
And you see that with StarCraft 2 as well. They have a whole variety of things that people can buy for real money. And I mean, StarCraft 2 is a little bit older now, and it's now free to play, so that's more important than ever before. But even before that, when the game was a full-price title, you had all these voice files, you had all these skins, you had all the announcers and all that stuff. So, like you say, it's really important. And Warcraft 3, it's not like it would be outrageous and it would be the first RTS to ever do this. And Warcraft 3 certainly has a couple of possibilities what they could have monetized. Like you say, it's hero skins. They could have even done something with the maps, maybe Some of the buildings could have had, like in StarCraft 2, this logo that you have in your main building.
I think the map sector, the custom game sector, was such a huge potential.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you are with NetEase, but or the viewers. I'm gonna explain it in as quickly as I can. So on NetEase, which is the Chinese server, there is of course ladder and 2v2 and 1v1 and season and Happy and TH and Lin and all the big boys are playing there. But that's actually a fraction of the activity of Warcraft. On another little side note, you don't need a CD key to play on NetEase. You don't. You can play it for free. Why? Because NetEase monetizes by having microtransaction options in the client. For example, you can buy avatar pictures of 120 drawn in a cartoon style, and for TH and for all the big guys. Or you can get a fancy pants Illidan avatar where he's dancing or something, stuff like that. And even better, they have monetization options for the custom games as well, which is a brilliant move. Map makers can include their own payment models into their custom games, where you play the game and you click ding, 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 and then it charges $5 from your WeChat bank or your Alipay or whatever. And that's a great incentive for map makers to develop. It's an opportunity for them to express themselves, obviously, and to get experience, but also to support themselves. And it's a symbiosis. They get a cut, and NetEase gets a cut. And by the way, it's not like NetEase is the first ever company to come up with something like this. We have something very similar in the West with the Steam Workshop, where the concept is almost the same.
I was going to say, Dota 2 has all these esports related items in their shop that basically give a huge cut to the people involved in it. Like you have casters as your announcer, you have players as your skins. League of Legends does that too. So the teams get the money, but it feels like Blizzard actually went one step back in the past now with the recent changes to custom games, where they are like, and all of it belongs to us.
Yeah, and that's also unfortunately something that seems to be a trend with Blizzard. They are really reluctant to give up control.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the modern era of online gaming and also digital rights in many regards has been about symbiosis and about partnership. Blizzard is the opposite. They're very centered and very
and it's gotten worse over the year, you could feel. It's gotten worse, whereas other major players, I mean, Valve has always been super hands-off, It almost felt like Gabe doesn't care, just do your thing, and as long as you don't majorly F up, he won't bother. And same with Riot. Riot used to be super hands-on. They were very strict, and these days, they're very much more relaxed about how they handle the franchising and stuff like that. So it feels like Blizzard is kind of swimming upstream in that regard.
Yeah, and this would be, I guess, pure speculation from me, but it feels to me like Blizzard is really, really, really concerned with preserving their IP the way they envision it. They don't really view the community shaping the game with them as something positive, which I think Valve is doing. Like the sets, for example, in Dota 2, they have become an extension of the game and a part of the game. And it's not just about, we are the company, we make something, this is our product, love it right now, it's amazing. No, it's a developing process. It's a collaboration between company and user base, which is why Valve and Steam is held in very high regard by the gaming community. And well, that's not really the reason, but it's one of the reasons why Blizzard is right now on the level with EA, maybe even worse. I'm not sure.
Ooh, now you're opening a box of Pandora, man. Who's the worst? Who's the most hated IP?
And I'm not saying they are the worst company. I'm just saying they are in the.
They're trying really hard to get there, to get on EA's level. So what is your prospect for the future, Remo? Do you think with those patches in mind, or maybe let's even take one step further if you want to, with upcoming projects of Blizzard, like most importantly, I think the ever important looming Diablo 4. Do you think
Diablo 4? Yeah. That's gonna be
that's the make and break, I think, dude.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's either gonna be their lifeline and parachute, or it's going to be their iceberg, honestly.
They're either going to come back like Phoenix from the ashes, or they're going to forever, sink in the waters. I think maybe a tiny stepstone before that will be the new WoW expansion. That's already going to be pretty big, but Diablo 4, man. A game where they specifically didn't make the mistake that they made with Reforged. No release date named, not even a year. They really don't want to mess that up, it feels. And what is your take on Warcraft 3 Reforged? Throughout that year, where are we going to be in 1 year from now? Are you brave enough to go up with a projection?
We're gonna have a ladder with good MMR.
Mm-hmm. Which is MMR is actually working, and I've seen a lot of positive reports.
Yes,
saw Grubby on stream yesterday getting harder opponents. I've seen other people on Twitter reporting stuff that it's working.
It's somewhat working, but if we want to get into the intricacies, normally in MMRs there's bucket systems, so there's like different skill tiers. There's tier 1, which is the best, and then the more buckets you have, the better it is because you have more separation from the best to the worst. Where ideally you would want probably 30 tiers of players, I would estimate, to have a proper matchmaking. So tier 1 player only plays against tier 1 player, tier 5 player only against tier 5, and so on. And at the moment, from my personal experience, I don't know, I've played 20 games or so, it feels like the buckets are really wide. It feels like there's maybe 4 or 5 buckets, which is not enough. But it's better. It is better than having no matchmaking at all, which was one of the pathetic points about the launch. But okay, let's go. You want to hear a prediction from me?
Yeah, man.
I haven't heard about the.
Maybe towards the end of the year, ESL Pro Tour has been around for a while. Are we going to see a second year of that? Maybe. Do you think it's going to go well? What's your prediction, man, about the whole?
I'm almost certain we are going to see a second year, because in the official ESL Pro Tour page they do advertise with literally them stating,
dude, 3
years. Yes,
because people, we like Rekrem and I mentioned that in an earlier episode of the podcast, and we weren't sure if those 3 years were only referring to StarCraft, but then we checked out the actual page of ESL, and they had the same 3-year teaser shuffling through. So I always thought it was like that as well.
Yeah, they could pull a scumbag move and say this advertising was just for the concept of ESL Pro Tour, and we never committed specifically to any given title.
Yeah,
they could do something like that, but that would be super bullshit asshole level. So
it would be EA level. Let's face it.
I don't think they're gonna do that, and also I don't think there's a reason really to do it, because they have made a 3-year deal with Blizzard. That's the deal, that they take over esports.
They would probably take legal problems onto themselves, Blizzard. That is, because I don't think ESL would be happy with that. They would.
And I mean, if someone's going to cancel it, ESL and DreamHack are going to cancel it.
Yeah.
But then Blizzard is probably going to get pissed off because they had a deal, unless they have something shady going on in the background, which I hope they don't. God damn it! But you never know. The sad truth is, big corporations do a lot of fucked up shit to make and save the most money possible.
That's right.
But that would be outrageous, honestly, if they went back on that promise. So yes, we're gonna have ESL Pro Tour for 3 years. I certainly expect, and 1 year from now, a lot of the sour taste and stench of the launch is gonna have disappeared. That is for the hardcore audience. Our big hope was to, with a big launch, catch a big casual audience as well. The people who were here 4 years ago playing on W3 Arena, they're probably still gonna be here next year. But we're hoping that the WoW noobs come over, and the Diablo mouse wheel spammers,
maybe
come
some
over.
StarCraft 2 betrayers.
And for them the ship has sailed. That's over. They touched the game. It was awful, and normally that's all the chances a game gets nowadays. You try it for 30 minutes. If it's shit, that's it. That's normally the way it goes. So I don't expect, honestly, a big increase of players or viewer base. There might be some increase if the ESL and DreamHack tournaments are well done, if it's providing an enjoyable product and people find the esport in itself watchable, enjoyable, and want to perhaps get more interested in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But from a player base wise, I could see significant growth from a viewer base, but from a player base, I think that's over. Unless Blizzard actually does something interesting, cool, and daring, and does a big content patch with a new chapter of a campaign.
Yeah.
New maps, new items, maybe even 2 new heroes. And before chat starts getting any ideas, not a new race. No, we have enough issues with our 4 races.
But Remo, don't you know they have the Naga models in there and the Burning Legion?
It wouldn't be much work at all. It would be super easy. No. Dude, Nida versus human is horrible enough already. Let's no. 4.
I'm glad you mentioned that matchup and not undead versus human.
I may have a bias there. So
yeah, same here.
So I don't know. According to Todd, it's very imbalanced. So who knows?
Who knows, man? So you know what? We're gonna close the show. It's been a blast, by the way. So thanks so much for coming on the show. I love the exchange. I love the banter, and I hope you guys out there do too. If you do, by the way, feel free to let us know. There's always the possibility to get in touch with us. You know, you can check out at Remodemo on Twitch, Kendric Swish, my name, or just basically just get into contact with us any other way, maybe on YouTube's or whatever. But before we close the show, I just want to give a community question over to you, Remo.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we get several done, actually, depending on how vast and extensive the answers are. Here's a question from Knut Knudsen. Do you consider pulling creeps so they don't cast spells or they do other unintentional stuff a feature or a bug, and do you think it should be addressed or not?
Almost in all cases, a feature that should be implemented because it's a technique that raises the skill level, which I'm always a fan of, pretty much, unless it's something really obnoxious and weird, like stutter step nonsense in Diablo. I'm sure not many people are going to understand what I mean, but some mechanics can be rather detrimental than a good idea. But this is not necessarily going to be taken without any caveat, because if there's some kind of abuse that can quickly decide a game, then yes, it should be banned. We have an example in Warcraft 3, which existed in the game for a long time, which was Twisted Meadows, the so-called drag and drop. The way that worked is you fly a Wind Rider behind the enemy base, attack the big boy level 9 dragon, pull him into the enemy base, and snare the dragon. Dragon drops into the base and starts attacking the buildings. So, and then the game's over pretty much. That was the drag and drop. So yeah, you know, if it goes too far, if it's too game breaking, then there definitely have to be some considerations, and there should be, in given situations, bans. But lightning shield creep, hex pull out, and stuff like that, I think that's totally fine.
Orc bro lock-ins and all that stuff.
Yeah. And is a cool thing, in my opinion, in the game.
Fully agree. I think it's basically a way to play the game, you know, and if you do it, you have an edge over your opponent. You don't do it, well, kind of your own fault. Now we have a question from Martin, also sent on Twitter. How would you change Beastmaster and or Firelord to become more viable in more matchups? Maybe you can tell me that, because I remember when I kind of went on a break, you know, from watching Warcraft 3. I know it's a terrible sin, and I confess, but I left when Beastmaster was played all the time for Night Elves as first hero. So has there actually been many changes around the Beastmaster? What happened that he's no longer this option?
His latest buff or nerf was a long time ago. Very, very long time ago. He was still a part of the Talon meta, but that disappeared because of the Talon nerfs, not because of anything involving the Beastmaster.
Right.
So, Beastmaster and Firelord, both absolutely weak heroes. That's true. I think buffing or nerfing them is not the right approach. I have a certain view on hero design, and I really dislike certain kinds of hero design. And that is heroes that have only limited use, completely limited use. What I mean by this is heroes who are, especially in the early game, super strong, but close to useless in the late game. And this goes for almost all summon heroes and where you can dispel their effects. And here, of course, I'm talking about the Keeper of the Grove. Really strong early, borderline broken with early level 3, and certainly was broken in 1.30. But in the late game, completely useless. Beastmaster, similar thing. Early game, pretty good for summon and harass, and late game, nothing if there's enough dispel on the enemy side. There is a way you can strike a balance with this that works. For example, AM summons early and really good in the early game. Summons in the late game, probably not so good, but he still has the aura, which is really good. And he's a fast hero and he helps you accelerate in the early game. So that means AM, while he can be good and late, he's definitely going to be good and at least pretty good late game. Naga, the same thing. Level 1 Naga, Cold Arrow, really good early on.
Yeah.
Level 3, you get a little of a power spike there. Level 5, it's not like she's bad, by no means, but she's a lot worse than a lot of the other altar heroes. And there's similar things on the opposite side. Low-level heroes like TC, pretty damn weak, but really good late game. So I hate this binary design of heroes where they are really good, especially in the early, and then useless later on. And this is especially the case for when all of their effects can be dispelled. Beastmaster, everything he does can be dispelled.
True.
Keeper, everything he does can be dispelled. Firelord, everything he does can be dispelled. Now, if you want to be really specific, you could say, well, he has an orb attack, but that orb is so freaking awful that it's not really a thing. So I think a redesign could be a good idea. Would certainly make the hero more interesting.
And there's certainly a plenty of inspiration to draw from if you want to make him more like Rexar. There's Hearthstone, there's Heroes, there's World of Warcraft. There's enough of stuff that you can draw back from.
Yeah, but you need to have something decent the hero provides that can not only be dispelled. I have not thought about this too much, especially for redesigning a hero, you need a lot of brainstorming time to come up with something.
Oh yeah.
This is something I have actually told Blizzard people before, that I think some heroes are in dire need of redesign if they want to have interesting and fun to play heroes.
Has that ever been done before? Where
no, not that I'm aware.
Not on Warcraft 3.
My number one examples are Keeper and Podem. Podem is not really a hero that is useless in the late game, but she is so boring. She's basically an archer with a fun ultimate if you ever get there. And I guess now that I think about it, also the Beastmaster falls into that category. But as much as I would love to see redesigns of certain heroes, that is really dangerous territory, because the last couple of years we've only been tweaking the numbers a little bit, and that already produced a lot of change and some
Remo,
severe problems.
Can you imagine what the community could potentially do if they're already going crazy over ears on the Naga? If they came up with a hero redesign?
When I was 12, this hero had that spell. How could you ruin this legacy? Yeah.
How dare you to ruin my never played hero and destroy my children's dreams?
Yeah.
That's true.
That's always a bit of a concern, I guess. But I think
it's always good food for thought, man. It's always nice, coming from Heroes. I love talking about hero designs and new abilities, potential rework. So who knows, man? That could be a nice idea once again for a Reforged event, where they're like, hey, here's something new, major content drop, boom, boom, bang. Who knows? Yeah, dude. Yeah. Hey, we're actually getting into the 1 hour plus territory. So
damn.
I think we had a wonderful session. I think it was a great time having you on the show, talk to you about Reforged and some other stuff. And I would like to say thank you very much for coming on the show. Where can people find you if they want more Remo, if they want more Back to Warcraft?
Well, first, thanks for inviting me. It's been a lot of fun here. I had a blast as well.
Same,
And
my
you can
man.
find me on Twitter at Remodemo or on Twitch, twitch.tv/Back2Warcraft, as you guys may know. I cast there sometimes with Neo. And you can follow us, Back2Warcraft, pretty much anywhere, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, for all your Warcraft needs.
And you better follow that man's advertisement, because I can vouch for the quality that these two lovely people are handing over to you. It's a blessing that they are in the scene, and there is so much to discover, especially if you're here maybe for the first time, after checking out Reforged and noticing, hey, there's actually a podcast. This is a good source to get your daily fix of Warcraft 3. Upcoming weekend, we have Calder, I think, back on the mic, but are you casting anything for besides Rising Star?
At the moment,
you're totally opening your schedule now, aren't you?
We're probably gonna do the G's Weekly tomorrow. The Reforged Open Cup, of course, we're gonna be there.
Nice.
And the ESL Cup. So yeah, the weekend once again, Friday and Sunday.
You guys don't want to miss out. Twitch.tv/Back2Warcraft. And if you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to subscribe, or whatever else you can do on the respective platforms. Spotify, iTunes, they all have their different ways of functioning and working. If you're listening on the YouTubes, then feel free to hit that subscribe button as well here in Heroes Hearth Warcraft 3. Leave a thumbs up, and feel free to recommend us to your favorite or to your significant others, to fellow Warcraft 3 lovers out there. And we're going to be back with the next episode relatively soon. Until then, have a great night, and thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.